20 years ago, I received a call from my brother. And I like to share this because when people join our journey, they kind of join our family. And I want to know your story. And I feel like your story is who you are. And my story really started out with a phone call from my brother, my hero. He was the most awesome brother you could ever imagine. Every girlfriend that I ever had in high school wanted to be friends with me to date my brother. And he was pretty fearless, too, I lost a couple friendships, too, just but he's handsome, he was successful, he was a great father, he was a college football player. And he called me one day and he said, Amy, something's wrong, I can't move my pinky. I'm looking at it, and I'm trying to move, and it's not moving. So that was our very, very first day with Lou Gehrig's disease. And it taught me my master's degree and how I would want to be helped in some days that you feel like you're drowning. So here, I'm very, very blessed to be a part of some programs that we're running here at this church. And I want to give you a little bit of, housekeeping. And at the end of the program, we're going to have our Community Cafe come up, and they're going to do a little bit of a performance for you. And all of them have certain jobs that they do with helping people feel welcome. So really, when they come up, give them your undivided attention. Let them see smiling faces. And then their job, so that you guys are aware of what their job is to make friends with you and invite you to our Thursday respite program. Any family that's here, that their loved one is a participant in our Community Cafe, which you saw maybe some of the pictures from it. Raise your hand or stand up. So if they're sitting at your table, you can kind of ask them firsthand what it's about, and you're going to see it. It's about a powerful word called respite. It's the most important thing for you to put in front of you in your journey. It's going to kind of lead you to maybe sanity, which Darcel is going to help us talk about from Behavioral Health Hospital. Any caregivers in the room feel like you're the nicest, sweetest, most patient caregiver all the time? Who today at 9 a.m. has already almost lost their patience? Okay, we're in a church. Anybody accidentally cursed already today? Yeah. So the education that we're doing today is to help guide you and give you resources so that you can just get through this journey and be the best caregiver from day to day. And I find the mental health piece of caregiving and the spiritual health piece of caregiving is lacking in our community of giving you that guidance for mental health. People are afraid to say the words, I'm really losing it. Has anybody had a day of caregiving where you literally can relate with that word? I feel like I am losing it. So, and I wanted y'all to put your hands back up and put them up high. So look around you guys. You're not the only ones losing it. It is an exhausting, thankless, scary, sometimes feeling hopeless job of trying to figure out what's next. And as a matter of fact, my business, it's the Caregiver Resource Center. The logo of my business is a lighthouse. And what the lighthouse means to me is respite. I remember very, very intensely through the days of taking care of my brother with Lou Gehrig's, my father-in-law with Parkinson's, my dad with Parkinson's, and my stepdad with Parkinson's. Days of feeling the most powerful sentence that I can say I remember feeling the most, that I also can say I feel guilty for thinking the most, was I don't know how much longer I can keep doing this. And so having a respite in front of you gives you, I'm exhausted, I'm tired, but I can make it to Thursday because Thursday's mine to get my cup filled. Whether it's Thursday as a respite program here, or if it's you take Saturdays off and you go play 18 or 75 holes of golf, or My favorite respite for me, what I needed was sleep. I needed to be able to, at least 1 or 2 nights a week, get through 6 or 7 or 8 hours of it. Everybody has your own respite. Some of you need a break. Some of you need a day with your girlfriends. Some of you need that 75 holes of golf. Some of you need your day at church. So respite is very powerful to keep your sanity, to keep your kindness and your patience, to be the kind of caregiver you want to be, because I also know what comes after that feeling of feeling impatient and not being a nice caregiver. What's the feeling that comes after that? Guilt. What's the feeling that feels like that you get when you're not feeling like you're ever getting enough done? Stress, overwhelm, anxiety. So we're going to start today with your mental health. So I just want you to kind of listen to the speakers today with the mindset of I don't know what I don't know, and being open to trying new things. I like to point out Mr. King here. When I met him, I've never seen a caregiver that's so resilient, and he's brilliant, by the way, but so knowledgeable about everything that he doesn't know and the research that he needs to do to be a more educated caregiver, to find the best resources for his wife. So Darcel is with the Behavioral Health Hospital. She's going to start us first with helping us all do this thing. I heard about it. I've actually never, I'm a hypocrite, by the way, because I'm going to tell you about how to keep boundaries. I'm still learning, okay? Anybody know about boundaries? Caregiver boundaries? No? Me neither. But we're going to learn. Darcel, thank you for taking the time today to come up. Give it up for Darcel. Give her some love.
What's that? You want to check in? Let's do a check-in. Let's do a check-in here. So, hi, can everyone hear me? I'm Darcel Baran. I'm so glad to be here. And I'll just tell you a little bit about me, maybe for the first minute, and then we'll go ahead and get into some caregiver stress and boundaries. I've taught on the subject boundaries now for 20 years. I took a class about 22 years ago with one of my best friends who still runs a Christian counseling center. And I worked for her for about 10 years on St. Simon's Island, Georgia, which is where I moved from 3 years ago. And I worked at the mental health hospital for many years, so I am a mental health counselor. Been doing it a long time. I do it from a faith-based perspective. And 3 years ago, I moved to the Villages and absolutely love it here. I started working at the Village Health, which I was their main counselor at one of the they have 7 different facilities. But what I did there, I cannot tell you what was the most shocking to me, is that when I was counseling every single day, the amount of people that came in with caregiver stress in their life, they came here to the Villages to have their best life, and they find themselves just sitting here having to do caretaking constantly and having no life for themselves. And so it just broke my heart. And so I started doing my boundaries classes that I've been doing for many years. I've done them for 15 years now. I take about 60 women through a year's worth of program, but I usually did my boundaries class for 12 weeks right here. But this book changed my life 22 years ago, you guys, and it's a book called Boundaries by Cloud and Townsend. It's got a faith-based approach, and they're just amazing. I went to all of their places in California, got trained directly from them. And what this book does and what these principles do is they give you your life back because you matter. So I want you to know that you matter. And I'll just give you a really quick thing. I met Amy when I was over at the Villages because she was my number one referral, because people like you need to say, I have to carve out some time for me so that I can fill myself up to the brim so I can be good for my loved ones. And what I saw everybody doing is they were doing the opposite. They thought they couldn't say no. They thought they couldn't carve out time for themselves. And then what happened is they weren't good for themselves or their cared loved ones. And so we can't have that. So I just want you guys to have a message today of hope that no matter how bad your situation is with the caretaking, there are options. But sometimes when we're in the woods, we can't see outside of it. So I just want to encourage you that there are so many ways, like what even Amy's offering over here, to have people come in and assist. And you need to say yes to those things, because by you saying yes to those, you're saying yes to yourself. You're giving yourself some capacity to be able to heal and to be able to get some joy back in your life. And then when we have that, then we can give it. But when we have an empty cup and we're giving out of an empty cup, we're not good for ourselves or anyone around us. So it is such an important principle to learn these boundary principles. So I now just opened up I'm just going to tell you what I've done really quick, and then we're going to get into some of these principles. I have a little table over there, and I've got a facility called Sozo. I just opened it up 2 weeks ago. It's a brand new wellness center, and it is the whole entire premise of Sozo is to also help with the hurting. So we do mental health counseling there. I do the counseling. I've got a couple of nurses, a naturopath doctor. We have a hyperbaric chamber and a bunch of other things that you'll see, and I have a table over there that you can come and sign up for any boundary class you want to do or any of the Sozo treatments. But so let's talk about this real quick. I'm going to tell you, the last patient I saw when I was at the Villages, this patient came in, and she was caretaking for her husband who had cancer, and she was at the hospital all the time. She was going there at 8 o'clock in the morning and not leaving until 8 o'clock at night. She fast forward 1 month later, how she found her way to me, she ended up in the hospital because she was in pure exhaustion. And if you guys only knew what your central nervous system is doing, if you're in the fight or flight and survival mode for too long, you're taxing your adrenals, you're so exhausted that you can't even get words put together. Your cognition decreases. Our central nervous system, when it goes into the fight or flight, I like to kind of do a really quick example. This is my brain, okay, and this is actually Dan Siegel's. I'm stealing it from him, but he's on YouTube, and you can look up Flip My Lid, and it's called, and this is how he explains it. So this is my brain, and this is actually what the brain looks like. And so here's my prefrontal cortex, which is right here. This is where all my logic lies. And here is my amygdala, and that's where my emotions are, back here in the back of my brain, okay? So when I'm in the fight or flight, my central nervous system is so important. It feeds every part of my body. It starts from here to the base of my butt, and it's called the vagus nerve. It's a wandering nerve, and it hits everywhere, all of our organs and everything. Well, when I flip my lid and I'm in stress mode, I go into the fight, flight, or freeze. You guys all know what that feels like. You're in this panic mode. You just are rushing, and you just can't get enough done, right? We've all been there. Every one of you I know has been there. Well, guess what happens? If you stay in the fight or flight for too long, the inside of your body is being so taxed, and it's like we're doing this. If I could just do this for like 3 minutes, you're exhausted when you do that. Well, when you're in a fight or flight, that's what your inside of your body is doing. So I love to explain this to people to help you to understand that our body is not meant to do that for too long. And if it does, we start working off of the reserve of our body. And instead of being in the fight or flight where we might think we're anxious, which is a big symptom of burnout, and caregiver stress is anxiety. Well, if I stay here too long, there's two things that happen. I disengage from my prefrontal cortex, so my natural brain that I normally have in all these files I've had along the years, I've disengaged from it. So I no longer have that. So it's why we don't think very clearly, and we need outside people to sometimes tell us what we really need to hear, like ask for some help. So when I stay here too long, I've disengaged from my prefrontal cortex, and my rational brain is gone. And then what's happening to me physically is all of my blood is going, my adrenals are rushing, and all the blood's going to my extremities. So what happens to my internal organs? It all leaves and goes to my external. It's like you can flip over a car. That's what staying in the fight or flight is like. So I just want to tell you, when you do that for too long, we go into the shutdown mode. We feel exhausted. We call it depression. Our body's adrenals have said, I can't hang in here too much longer with you. I better shut down to preserve energy. And when I shut down to preserve energy, you feel like you're in depression. But it's just your central nervous system telling you need some rest. So then, if we start taking care of ourselves and we start doing very important things, I could give you guys some free things to do every single day. Grounding, outside, take your shoes off, go directly to the earth. God gave us everything we need. It's free. It will fill your energy up. The sunshine on your face for even 15 minutes, you will not believe how healing that is. And so you guys are worthy of taking time to fill yourself up to the brim so that you have more to give to others. And so if you keep saying yes, 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 and no to yourself, you are not going to be good for anyone, I promise you. And so just remember, carving enough time away for yourself is essential. And so I just want to tell you, I'll just go through just a couple of little slides I have. I have a couple more minutes. Okay. So the 60% of caregivers report feeling overwhelmed and emotionally drained. Anyone feel that way in here? Yeah, I've been there. I understand. Caregivers rewarding. We love our loved ones. We're not saying we don't because we're here. We're saying we want to even be the better version of ourselves for you. That's why we're here. And to give the best version of yourself is to give yourself some reprieve. And you can't afford not to. I promise you, I get those patients in my office every single day that are in burnout because of caregiver stress. So you can't afford to not do what I'm talking about. Calling Amy in one of her facilities to come in and help for a weekend so you could go get a massage. Oh my gosh. And then you come back and you feel so much better. I promise you, you do. So the goal, provide tools to set healthy boundaries and reduce stress. That's what I want to just talk about for just maybe 3 or 4 minutes, okay? So what is the problem? What is caregiver stress? It's physical, emotional, and mental exhaustion from caregiving demands. We all know what that is. We get irritable, anxious, sleep disturbances, and health problems. Anyone have a hard time sleeping? Can't get their brain to shut off? Oh, that is a big one that we get. And so there's all kinds of things that we can do to help get better sleep. And one of those, believe it or not, is grounding, making an experience at night, taking some chamomile tea, holding the cup, and just doing some deep breathing. Writing anything that you might have on your mind down on a journal that you keep beside your bed. And then meditation. There's so many meditation apps that are on your iPhone. And the one I get the most compliments on for giving people is one called The 1 Minute Pause. It's by John Eldredge. He wrote a book called Resilient just recently. One of the best books of the year, hands down. I've read it probably 3 times. And it's about pressing into the Father and God who made us and how he wants, sometimes through hardship, there's a purpose in it, and it's to press us in deeper to him. And he does this app, and it's 10 minutes of meditation in the morning and 10 minutes of meditation at night. And you guys, it's a game changer. It will help that central nervous system we're talking about to just have a reprieve. And you will have a noticeable difference after just 5 days, and it's 30 days of 10 minutes in the morning, 10 minutes at night. It's called the 1 Minute Pause. Yes, ma'am. 1 Minute Pause. It's got on your Apple iPhone, it's got 2 black lines in the middle, okay? So great book. That will help a lot. Or great app, sorry. So the consequences of not taking care of yourself is burnout, chronic health problems, which is what we're talking about, and relationship strain. So what's the solution? Establishing boundaries. Physical boundaries, setting limits on yourself. You guys have limits. We all have limits. So we cannot keep going at Mach 110 or we are going to burn out. So establish what your limits are and what you can handle, and then make a plan to help so you're being responsible to yourself and to your loved ones. So boundaries are essential. If you had a house that did not have a gate and it didn't have a fence, and you just allowed everybody to come over and eat all of your food in your house and just trample all over, that is a boundaryless activity. Well, we're doing the same thing with ourselves, with our time. If we think we have this unlimited time and this unlimited energy to take care of everyone at expense of self, we finally have to sit and say, no, you know what? I can't afford to have the whole neighborhood coming in and gobbling up my food. Well, we can't do that with our resource and our time for ourselves, or we're going to end up in burnout. So boundaries are essential. Emotional boundaries, allowing yourself to say no. When you say, sometimes I have to tell people when they come in, we're used to doing all these things, and then we got this caretaking role on ourselves. So now I'm going to have to say no to some really things that I love for just a season. So consider it a season, and sometimes you have to say no to some other things so you don't keep taxing yourself and you give yourself some reprieve. All right, so the last thing I'm gonna, the mental boundary, the negative self-talk. Does anyone do that in here? Beat themselves up, say I should be doing this better, I shouldn't be getting angry at them. What are some of the things you guys say? The mental boundaries. Anyone have any that they say? I don't deserve this. That's a good one. That's a big one. So if I stay in that camp of I don't deserve this, and I repeat that over and over and over, my thoughts plus my feelings plus my words create my reality. So then if I keep saying that, and that is true, that's a true one, we're gonna have to find a way to give ourselves some containment and only allow a negative dump for about maybe 30 minutes, and then we have to start speaking in a different way, like, I'm going to get help, I'm going to start, whatever it is we can do that we want our reality to be, and then that's what we'll step into. So, stress management techniques, and then I'm gonna be done. Deep breathing and meditation we just talked about, regular exercise, journaling or therapy. Therapy helps a lot, so you have someone very neutral to talk with and talk to. So what I want to challenge you guys with today is to take 5 minutes today to create an emotional and physical needs that you have. Not that your loved one has, but you do. And then start by setting one clear boundary for yourself, something that you can change today to create some more time for you. A lot of times just going and getting a massage is going to help your central nervous system and help your stress to reduce. And that 1 hour you deserve and your loved ones deserve, because they're going to get a better version of you when you start taking care of yourself. And that's incredibly important. And then I'll just leave you kind of with just a story that I ran a home for sex trafficking victims I developed in Georgia. I did that for about the last 7 years before I moved here to Florida. So as you can imagine, the amount of stress that was coming into me, couldn't find the right help. I teach on boundaries, just like Amy was saying. I teach on boundaries, and I've been teaching on it for almost 20 years. And I knew better, and I could not get my adrenals calmed down. I was in the fight or flight all the time. I ended up a hot mess, I'm just telling you. And I know these principles. And so what I knew I needed to do is I couldn't afford to not take a week off. And I had to have people that I loved come in and just take over for a week. And when I got back, and I'm not saying you have a week on your hands, this is what I had to do. And when I got back, I was a whole new person. I was out of the fight or flight, my brain was back, I had my prefrontal cortex, all my rational thinking was back intact. Then I can start to do the next right step. And that's all we're responsible for, is the next right step. And then I would be doing you no service if I didn't tell you to remember, if you're a believer, to don't put God out of the equation. I was just sitting with a cancer patient before I came here today, and we were talking about the faithfulness of God. And I will tell you my testimony with doing House of Hope. I had $1,000 in my bank account when God called me to do that. I thought, there's no way I'm going to be able to do this, but I saw him be faithful to me for the 10 years of provision that I needed. So when he asked me to do it, I said yes, and I'm going to tell you he did the rest. So he says his yoke is easy and his burden is light, and he wants to take this burden of caregiver stress off you. So by you just simply saying a prayer, the next day, I promise you, someone's going to appear. an angel. It'll feel like an angel. And God wants to show up for you in these ways. He wants to make your burden light, okay? That's what he's there for. So take your hands like this, whatever you're holding on to that you feel you cannot let go of, and God calls it surrender, and he just says, please surrender this to me and I'll take over. And just by that faithfulness and just by our simple act of faith, when our hands are open, then he could bestow the blessings upon us that you guys need, and you need this help right now. So I just want to thank you for your time today, and I've got Sozo's little sign-up sheet, or if you guys want to go through the Boundaries book, not that you need another thing to do, but it'll teach you how to maybe create some capacity in your life so you have some freedom to do for you too, because you're worth it. So thank you for your time today.
So, those that raised their hand a moment ago, whenever you're talking about those emotions of stress, not managing well, the last time any of you had a fever or needed like an antibiotic, what did you do? Went to your doctor? Yeah, took whatever med you need and tried to heal that, right? Whatever. Same thing with your mental health. So if you are struggling, I'm very, very relieved. There is finally in this community, if you don't know that it opened, the Behavioral Health Hospital, which is off of Powell and 466A. So a couple of areas that they're going to focus on is just mental health. And so I think everybody gets a visual of mental health, like you gotta be cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, right? Which is me. Or it's just getting good logical guidance on managing your emotions and your mental health. You know, it's an intellectual approach to managing emotions. So be open to that. If anybody want to make sure everybody's filling out this. Because everyone will get an email with the information from each speaker today, how to reach out to them, when to reach out to them, and all the other education that we're doing today, names, phone, contacts. So make sure you write clearly. Does anybody in this room get my email? Do I over-inundate you with emails? No. No, like one a month. So I'm pretty hesitant sometimes to give out my email. But this is a safe place. I don't sell it to anybody. But if you want information for the educators and the other events that are coming up, that's how you do it. Couple of things before I bring up Wayne, my next speaker. This piece of managing your health and the things that leaning into your faith. Who feels some days that you get a little mad at God? Anybody gotten mad at your? Yeah. Lots of people have that struggle. That's what sometimes it's just protecting your energy and leaning into people. Maybe sometimes you need to borrow somebody else's faithfulness for a moment. I tell you as a caregiver, because I do this for a living all day long, I'm talking to people in their most difficult moments, and I'm talking to people in the healthcare field that are also doing the same thing. Protect your energy. Protect your space. So this is a tough thing to do, but it's a boundary. When you are around people that are only consuming your energy and don't bring some positive love, energy to keep your cup full, you have to be protective of that. That's one of the boundaries that I worked on personally for myself this year, from people that work for me to people that participate in our program here. You gotta come to the table some days and match my energy. And it's hard to say it. I need to. I want to. And so be protective of your energy. In our support group, if you're looking for a support group here, who's in a support group that has left once in a while a support group a little more exhausted than you were when you got there? Maybe we need a different support group sometimes. I'm just saying. But so thank you, Darcel. I think she already left for doing that. All right, our next speaker is also my brother from another mother, Wayne. And I would say throughout an average day, I help anywhere between 2 to 10 caregivers. Unfortunately, I would say 1/4 of my day is spent in the hospital or a rehab. And there are situations where the hospital has called me, they're trying to help somebody, but there are no resources for them due to one major decision that they made. Do y'all know what that is? Their health insurance. And so this is not a health insurance sales piece. This is a very important thing. Most caregivers are somewhat vulnerable. And also, AKA, you're easily sold to, okay? Because it's very easy to tap into somebody that's vulnerable and give them words that they want to hear and get them to go where you want them to go. So Wayne is going to kind of give you some nuts and bolts of understanding how your insurance can help you and how it's either going to help you or it's going to tie your hands. So thank you, Wayne.
Good morning. Oh God, he took the microphone off the stand. Uh-oh, he just bumped it. Are we good? All right. If you all would bring up that presentation on the first page. So again, good morning. My name is Wayne Easterling. I am president of Alliance Global Insurance Group. We are a full-service insurance agency. During this morning's presentation, and while I'm here, we will not be talking about health insurance from a sales standpoint. We're going to be talking about it from a usury standpoint. And one of the things we're going to be talking about is really how does it work? So a couple of things. Number one, insurance, in my opinion, has very little to do with your health. I'm going to say that again. Insurance has very little to do with your health. If I told you that insurance is really set up to pay bills, just let that marinate a minute. Because how many of you all have a condition? Raise your hand if you have any condition at all. Okay, now keep your hand up now raise your hand if you also have insurance. Oh, so the insurance did not prevent the condition, did it? There you go. Hence my belief that the insurance does not impact your health the way we like to think that it does, because we were told that in a civilized society that we have in America, we spend more per capita on health insurance than all nations combined. But we have the worst health outcomes of all nations. We are at the very bottom for health outcomes. So think about that a minute. We spend the most, you pay the most, and we still have the worst outcomes. So graphically in my mind, that means that a third world country where they do not have access to clean running water, they do not have access to food, and they do not have access to health care. Right now, I could get in my car and I could drive in. How far is the closest hospital? How many minutes away is the hospital? 10 minutes away. So I'm 10 minutes away from a hospital. Do you think there's a doctor's office at least 10 minutes away or closer? So I could be at a doctor's office, or I could be in a hospital in less than 10 minutes. So it's not access to care that's hurting me. And I have insurance that will pay for it. So by all means, I should be healthy. But because of the way our system is formulated and the way it operates, you're really in a game. You're playing a game and not understanding the rules. So part of what I'm going to spend time over the next few minutes is giving you some insights into the game and how I would suggest that you would want to play going forward. there we go. Yay. Thank you. She said yay real early. So, first of all, I wanted to pick up on what the first presenter had said, and I truly believe this. When the student is ready, the teacher will appear. Now, that's not my quote. I got that from a gentleman that I really idoled by the name of Wayne Dyer, who really was a person who I think he always said that we were spiritual beings having a human experience. And so with that, this is where we are. So there's a couple of things. Again, having insurance does not guarantee that you're going to have good health. What having insurance says is that you will have access to health. So very different. So if you look at the screen here to my left and right, you will see a couple of boxes, and I apologize for the let me go. There we go. For some of the graphic sizes, and I'll be glad to send this out to you all. It's about 13 pages. We're only going to cover about 4 of them because it's a lot of information. But basically, in the upper left-hand corner, you see Part A and Part B. That's Medicare. It covers hospital as your A, B is your doctor. When you turn 65, you get the Medicare. Now, here's the challenge. Once you get it, what do you do with it, or how does it work? And this is where the system starts to go off the rails. As soon as you get Medicare, everybody comes to you and they want you. And the reason they want you is because you are technically, I was in Puerto Rico a few weeks ago, and somebody made a statement that I really loved. They said, somebody had cut somebody off, and they said, they think they're the last Coca-Cola. And I thought about it, but that's what Medicare is. It's like having the last Coca-Cola. So when you are in a crisis, having access is important, but then also getting that support with the access. So here's what happens. You get Medicare Part A and B, and then you can get a prescription drug plan, and you can get a Medicare supplement. The supplement is going to cost you anywhere from $65 to $500 a month for the supplement, and you can go to any doctor anywhere in the country, anywhere in the U.S. Many of the plans will cover you while you have foreign travel, but you pay the most, but you have the most access, and you have the most flexibility. Or you can take your A and B, and you can give it to an insurance company, and they will in turn manage your care, and those are called Advantage plans. And whether you have an Advantage plan through a retirement, through an employer, union, or if you bought one early on, these are the 2 boats we're in. So last night on my way to an event, I got a phone call from a young lady. She said, I'm really frustrated, and you could tell the frustration because before we got the phone, she was yelling and screaming. Because her mother-in-law is here in Florida, and they're in Connecticut. She has no access to information, and these are the important things I want you to write down. If no one has this, you need to make sure you get it for them. Everybody in here should have somebody else outside of themselves that has a copy of the following: a copy of your Medicare ID card, a copy of your driver's license or your state ID, copy of your Social Security card, your insurance card front and back. Notice I didn't say front and back for anything else, but for the insurance card, you're going to want copies of front and back. If you have Medicare and a prescription drug plan, they'll need a copy of the Medicare ID card and your prescription drug ID card, and that prescription drug plan front and back. Also, everybody in here should have set up for themselves and the person they're taking care of or providing care to. You should set up a Medicare.gov account online. If you don't know how to do that, you call my office and we'll do it for you. The same thing with Social Security. You want to set up your Social Security account. The reason why this is so important, because here's the challenge. When you want to do anything in the system, everybody thinks the system is broken. And I go, it's not broken. If it was poorly designed and poorly executed, it's not really broken. it's doing what it was designed to do. It just wasn't well designed. So if you are taking care of a loved one, there was a time where, let's say the pastor came to visit me here in the church. I'm a member of the church, and I go to the hospital. I'm in the hospital in a room, and the pastor there was a time he or she could come to the church. I could go to the church and say, hey, pastor, I'm in the hospital. You come and pray with me. And he or she could come to the hospital, walk in the hospital, and they could say, what room is Wayne in? And they would say, oh, he's in 13B. Go down the hall, take the elevator up, first room on the right. Remember those days? Now we have something called HIPAA. And this is where everybody, again, gets really frustrated, because you would think that because it is my pastor, it is my sister, it is my mother, it is my brother, I am the only person that she has. Why can't I get the room number? Oh, because we have HIPAA laws. And the same thing with Medicare. If you do not set up a Medicare.gov account and add people onto that account as what they call authorized representatives, they can't make a phone call to Medicare. They can't make a change. They can't make an ad. Now, here's the problem with that. When you need to get something done, and I'm not going to get into politics today, but I'm going to tell you what is definitely going to happen. For you all right now where you're sitting, you all are within 12 minutes of one of probably what's only going to be one of only 5 Social Security offices that are going to be left open in the next 30 days. So they're shutting down many of the Social Security offices. So what that means is that, so there's one in Leesburg is the closest one. The one in Tavares has already been notified they're going to be shut down, and you're going to have this happen. So you want to have access to your accounts online, because the line, pardon the pun, to go in and access is going to be horrific. They were already slow. Now you're going to kind of compound it. And that's going to be for the next 6 months. It's going to be a challenge for you. But you want to set it up. Yes, ma'am.
You want to make it clear that you go to Social Security to become a Medicare authorized representative.
So there's 2. So both, yes. So great point. So 2 things.
I have 11:15 appointment.
There you go. Good deal. Yeah. So it's really odd, but here's what happens. If you want to move your address, what do? If you move to a new address yesterday, what do you need to do? Anybody? You go to the post office, right? You go to the post office, change your address. When you're over 65, the post office has nothing to do with where you live. Everything is based on the zip code, and the zip code is based on the county, and the county is based on where Social Security says you live. So where you live is where Social Security says you live. So if you change your address with the post office, that's great. For voter registration, that's great. But if you don't change it inside of Social Security, you still live at the old address. So that's why you want to set up a socialsecurity.gov account. So if and when you do move or your address changes, you can change that address very easily. You cannot change the address with Medicare at Medicare. If you log in right now or call Medicare and say, I want to change my address, they're going to tell you, you need to contact who? Social Security. There you go. So that's one. Secondly, how many of you all are a power of attorney? You actually are a power of attorney. Okay, great. Guess what? The government doesn't care. If you call Social Security or Medicare and you say, I am the power of attorney, they're going to go, great for you, but they won't talk to you. They will not talk to you.
Don't I know?
Yeah. Have any of y'all experienced this? Because there you go. Yeah. Were you not in shock when it happened?
Yeah, I'm not power of attorney.
Right.
My mother was there.
Uh-huh.
She wasn't cognitive.
Right. Yeah. So here's the game that gets played. Oh, yes.
My health insurance, that is a account with me and my husband, will not talk to me. They will only talk to my husband, who is mute because of his stroke.
Okay, good. Yeah. So, great point. So here's what's happening. So remember I mentioned HIPAA? I know you all are making a face and y'all are going, that can't be. She's 1,000% correct, and here's the why. Let's say, what's your name? Mary, you and I are going to be married for the next 5 minutes, okay? And we will have been married for the last 40 years. So Mary and I have been married for 40 years. Mary worked for the school system in Kentucky, and I worked at Walmart. When I retired, I was on Mary's insurance because her insurance was better than my Walmart insurance. So I got on her insurance. My ID card has whose name on it? It has Mary's name on it. So who's the primary? If I want to drop the insurance and go to another plan, can I? Not unless who drops me? Mary. And if Mary becomes incapacitated, and I pray that never happens, by the way. Thank you for the beautiful 40 years. But if Mary becomes disabled and now I have to make a change to the insurance, guess what happens? We have a real issue. I'm her husband of 40 years. I have the same insurance, and I'm talking to the same company. They will not talk to me because I am not the primary. Oh, God, yeah, I knew that was coming. Give me 1 second. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, if you set up a trust,
Uh-huh.
go to an attorney, and you've signed it in advance, and you have power of attorney over his health issues.
Mm-hmm.
That helps.
Yeah, so 2 different things. So there is a power of attorney and there's a healthcare surrogate. This is really good, Amy. They're connected. So healthcare surrogate says that I or you have permission and control over my health care. That means that if you walk in the room and they say, Wayne's not doing well, I don't think he's going to make it, what do you want, what life-saving measures do you want to provide? You get to make that decision. If you need to call the pharmacy and verify my medications, if you're my healthcare surrogate, you can make those decisions. If you want to talk to the doctor and find out what is going on, they have to talk to you because you are my healthcare benefactor. However, if you do not have a healthcare surrogate, and Amy can point you in the direction of people that can help you get this, if you do not have a power of attorney on each other, and you don't have a secondary person, I strongly, strongly encourage you to do so because, what was your name? Catherine asked a question that I did not answer yet, and I was hoping nobody would, but I knew Catherine would, which is, what happens when you don't? This is where the story changes, so I'm going to make this real simple. If you don't have these things, everybody goes, so what happens to the people who don't have someone, right? Because everybody does not have a Mary, everybody does not have a Catherine. So what do? You spend a lot of time and a lot of money getting it done. And meaning that it can be, go ahead, yes sir, I'm sorry.
I just wanted to ask, I want to make sure I understood this lady. Power of attorney is a healthcare surrogate.
Uh-huh.
What does each of those do for you?
So the healthcare surrogate, so again, through an attorney, you would have a power of attorney says that I can enter contracts and sign as you. So I can enter a contract, break a contract, sign as you. Power of attorney, that's all that is. Has nothing to do with your health. Power of attorneys, enter contracts, cancel contracts. Healthcare surrogate says that I can have access to your health information, and if you're incapacitated, I can make health decisions on your behalf, whatever they are. The trust is stuff. The trust is, what do you do with your stuff? But a lot of times when you go to an attorney to talk to them about a trust, they will also talk to you about setting up a power of attorney and a healthcare surrogate document.
She had mentioned something about the trust will do this for you.
No, when she went to the attorney, they have you set it up. Right. Exactly. Yeah, no problem, no problem. I really thought you were, because you had made that face when she said they wouldn't give her information. I thought that's where you were going with the question, because that seemed to be, that was a little bewildering. Yes, exactly. Yes, ma'am. Not different, one and the same. Durable power, yeah. So we call it POA, durable power of attorney, yes. There are some variances, but it depends on what the person needs. But typically for this discussion, power of attorney we're going to use as a blanket statement. meaning that you can speak on behalf of and do things for them. So if you don't want, and now, Amy, I'm going to do needy and greedy real quick. So if you don't do these things, this is who you leave to do it. It either becomes a ward of the state, and the government does it, and we all trust the government. They never make a mistake. They get it always right, so you can go that route. Or you can depend on and count on family, friends, and others. And what happens in my world, this is who I end up dealing with. When you all don't do this, I get the phone call I got last night from the daughter-in-law who wants me to help her, and she has nothing but the mother-in-law's name. She has no social security card, no number. She has name and a date of birth. She has no Medicare ID number. She's not sure of mom's actual last known address. So all of those things kind of handcuff me. So we always talk about needy, greedy, guilty. Now, I have 2 sons. I have one of them that I could make the power of attorney, and I could trust him to make the right decision. I have another son who is really good with numbers, but if he walked in the room while I was on life support and his cell phone started to die, he would lean over and unplug the machine that I was breathing on to charge his phone. I mean, so you don't want to pick people just because. You really want to pick somebody that you feel is going to do what you expect to have done. So here's the example. For me, I get 3 people. I normally will get needy, greedy, or guilty, and let me kind of describe them. I normally will get greedy, who I like the most, because over the 40 years of our marriage with Mary and I, we have 4 kids. They're all doing well. They're all independent. They take care of themselves. That's wonderful. What we did not realize, unfortunately, was that one of them likes a lot of stuff. So here's what happens. We get sick. All of a sudden, it was time for us to plan for our life, and something happens. Now, they're in front of me, and here's what they're going to say as the agent. Mom promised me the flat screen TV. Dad said I could have the car. That tea set, that's mine. I get the tea set. So greedy always shows up and tells you what stuff they're going to get. They're not there to set up funeral arrangements. They're not there to talk to me about medications. They are reminding me of the stuff that they are expecting to get. So I like greedy because they normally introduce themselves as, what's your name? Ann, how you doing? I'm Wayne. I'm greedy. I want all your stuff. I love that ring and the watch and the bracelet. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. So greedy tells you who they are up front. And greedy does not mix words. They are very clear. So the only problem with greedy is that they tend to stick around until everything's gone, causing turmoil. Now, next, we're going to talk about guilty. So this is family stuff now. This is stuff we're going to keep in here. They have an issue. Guilty married somebody we didn't like, Catherine. They married the person we told them not to marry. They didn't go to the school, Mary, that we told them to go to. They took a little wrong path right out of high school and never quite got it together. Or they don't come around or call us on our birthdays after 40 years. Mary, wouldn't you think they would at least remember our birthdays and call us? But something happened. Something emotional, something physical, something happened, and they no longer are connected. But they are now dangerous. And let me tell you why they're dangerous. Because when guilty shows up, they're going to try to fix something emotional and historical with finances. And here's what I mean. Guilty comes in and says, Mom has passed away. Mom wanted the platinum casket. When did Mom say she wanted a platinum casket? You know what? We're going to do a 24 dove salute to Mom. Okay, wait a minute. When did we do this? She gets the plot on top of the hill. We're going to dig up Dad, and we're going to move them both to the top of the hill, because what guilty is trying to do, and I always say this, you cannot talk your way out of something that you acted your way into. Again, you cannot talk your way out of something that you acted your way into. But guilty is trying to make up for the 5 birthdays they didn't show up, the time they didn't come home for Christmas, the last time we had a phone call, we had a fight. So guilty is really trying to fix everything right then and there. And that's problematic because they get to be very dangerous because they make emotional decisions, not practical. Oh, we need to take mom off life support. Oh, we need to do this. And they're just trying to fix everything. It took us 25 years to get to this point of not speaking. We're probably not going to fix it at a table in 10 minutes, but they will do their best. So we've talked about needy, want stuff. Guilty is just not having it. They're just there to try to fix everything that's been unsaid or undone. Now, needy is my favorite person. Needy is the person that walks in the room and they say these, and this is going to be I can already tell 90% of you all fall in this category. And they say to me, Wayne, I'm not sure what to do. Can you just tell me what I need to do? That's needy. I know y'all were thinking needy was going to be something else, but they're not. They're not high maintenance. They're normally the person they're the responsible neighbor that you can trust. Needy is the person, they're that one child or the kids in the family that stayed close to you or are connected or have a little bit more of a maternal instinct. And needy is also, they're just responsible. They just want to do the right thing, or they're kind of like myself, too nervous to make a mistake, so they want to make sure they get everything they can right. So that's going to be needy. If you all don't make some decisions, or you kind of continue on the horizon of we'll take care of each other, and you don't set up your Medicare.gov account, you don't set up your Social Security account, you don't add people on, or you don't have a healthcare surrogate document, or you don't have a POA, you're going to leave all of the decisions up to needy, greedy, guilty, and when they show up, we get what we get. Okay? Any questions right now before? Yes, sir. Yeah. Oh, you can have them all in one person. Yeah, it's not pretty. Yes, sir. Uh-huh.
Things spelled out in the will.
Sure. Correct.
Somewhere that the will would cross into some of what you're talking about.
I wish it would, but no, it does not. So the will is kind of stuff again. So the will says what I want to have done. But what the will not do, it does not bypass probate. So what you may think you're leaving me is $100,000 may end up, because of my tax bracket, I might end up with $40,000. A will say that I get the car, but oops, Wayne, you got to pay the taxes on the car. I want to leave money to a foundation. Those are the good things where will is a driver or more of a director. And you want to have activity. You want to have an active involvement or participation in that decision. So you all would not be here if you're not planners, if you were not proactive. So I really applaud you all for being here. And you just need to understand that the decisions that you make going forward are going to have huge impacts on both yourself, your quality of life, and your loved ones that are left to kind of pick up and clean up. I won't overshare about Amy, but when Amy's father passed away, Amy's mom passed away, she herself had to rely on a lot of professional people to get a lot of this stuff done. And Amy, just quickly, would you say that was an easy thing, dealing with the stuff? Yeah, it is not easy. Because before, what would happen is, when my father passed away, people showed up at the house and the family walked in and they said, I'll take the sofa, okay, I'll take the bed, okay, I get the golf clubs, okay. It was just stuff, and it was divvied up and taken out the house. But now with the government, everything has to be present and accounted for. So it's not as simple as you giving something away. So what you want to do is make sure you have your Medicare account set up, Social Security set up. Make sure people have access. The other thing is your email. How many of y'all have an email? All right, leave your hand up if somebody outside of the house has a copy of your password. Take your hand down if somebody else doesn't have the password. Okay, so every hand should have been up. You need to have, give it to Amy or somebody, but you need to have access, because here's the other thing. When something happens and you have to go into Medicare and do a reset, it's reset based on the email address. And so if you don't have the copy of if you don't have access to the email and you can't get into the email, not only are you now locked out, but you can't get into the system. So then we're back to Catherine's question. What do? You call an attorney, you spend $5,000 or $6,000, you go before the judge, you get appointed, then you have to send that document to the U.S. Attorney's Office, then it goes to the federal government, and in about 3.5 months, you can get access to the account. That's the answer, quick and short. So you want to be proactive in those. And again, if you have any questions about how to set those up, there's no charge for that. There's no fee. We will gladly help you do that. But those are some of the most important things to have, because if you have the Medicare account, we can get in and help you. You have Social Security, we can help. It's very easy to do. Okay. Any questions? Yes, ma'am. Perfect. Great question. Question is, what do you do if you do not have email? So the same thing I said about email, then you set up the account and they're going to use a phone number. And I tell people, please, please don't use a home number, because they're going to send you a text. Yeah, I know. We set up a system, didn't we? We made it. You don't have a cell phone? So then if you don't, then what you want to do is have someone set up an email account for you so that it can be attached to your account. That's what you want to do. If you don't have a cell phone to use for texting, then you want to set up a Google account. It takes 2 minutes to set up a Google account. And even if you don't use it, it will be set up to your Medicare, and then whatever family or friend that's going to be the person that would be responsible to help you, you want to give them access to that email address, even if you don't use it. It could be, yeah, it could be your trustee. Exactly. Mm-hmm. Uh-huh. Gotcha. Gotcha. No problem. Yes, sir.
Wayne, I'm just finding in daily life, and I mean, we have all that set up.
Uh-huh.
Cell phone is becoming more and more necessary, even when you have the computer, because they do the
Secondary, that's right, authentication.
more and more and more prevalent. So it's almost like, my God, anymore, you better have your cell phone.
Correct. And that's why I said you can't. No, that's a great thing. Yeah. His point was that right now, every time you log into any portal to get anything done, even if I went into my McDonald's app the other day and they wanted to send me authentication, I was like, what am I going to do? Steal fries? I mean, okay, I don't know. So we've talked about needy, greedy, guilty. We've talked about Medicare and some of the things you'll need to do. Lastly, I'm going to close with this. You all are proactive. You're here. I encourage you all, definitely circle back with Amy. Amy, I like to describe her as the hub of all things. So if she doesn't have it, she knows somebody. If she doesn't know she knows somebody, she sends out kind of this little text message, anybody knows, and she is really good at connecting. And you want to have some connections in your life, because unfortunately, nothing is the same. And this is what I mean. If you all are, how many of you all are married? How many of you all are on the same insurance plan that your spouse is on? Okay. So, why? Anybody want to tell me why you're on the same plans? Simple prices. What else? Because of work? Yeah. Huh? And convenience. There you go. Okay. So with the exception of employer, probably the really best one. Convenience, it is. Simplicity, it is. But it's not, huh? until it isn't. And here's where the problem comes. So remember, Mary and I have been married for 40 years. I was on her plan. Remember, I started out saying that I needed to get off the plan, but they wouldn't let me out. Why did I need to get off of her plan? Because my health care needs are exceeding the limitations of the plan. And we didn't get into any of that. On the presentation, could you go to page 12 for me? What happens is, and I know you all are going to find this a shock, so don't tell anybody out of here, but men and women are different. Okay? We're not the same. We don't have the same stuff. I just want to let you know that, okay? Because the reason I say that is because we treat marriage like same stuff. So if we're married for 40 years, and if Mary has Blue Cross and I'm on Blue Cross, it has to be good. But what happens when we find out that the doctor, this doctor right here, that saved everybody's life at this table, is the best cancer specialist in the country, and he's right here at this table, and he has an opening for me, but guess what? Guess what? One plan he does not accept. He doesn't accept Blue Cross. Now, how do I get to him? So I go to Mary, and we talk about it. I go, Mary, you still love me? Okay, Mary's guessing. Okay, so see, y'all see, guys, I gotta get it together. So I say the best thing for me to do is to leave the plan, and if I want to do that in order to go to see this doctor, I need to have options. There's nothing wrong with her plan as it stands, but it's no longer good for me. So I always caution people that are married to think through, are you all on the right plan for each of you? Because you're different. Unless you all live in the same house, same zip code, take the same medications, and see the same doctor for the identical same ailments, you're probably not in the right plan. And that's just a fact. And there's no benefit of, other than us being married, and it was probably cheaper for me to be on the plan, other than that, cheap is not a reason, because nobody ever says, Doc, I got cancer. Are you the cheapest doctor in town? Because that's what I'm looking for. When a person is sick, they're never looking for the cheapest. But when we get insurance, everybody's always looking for the cheapest insurance. And I always encourage you to think about what it is that you're going to need going forward. So I'm going to wrap up with that. Amy, thank you so much for your time. Again, I'll be here at the table. Amy has my contact information, but I applaud you all for being here and being very proactive. So thank you all very much for your time.
I actually have something better than that. Who's getting a little bit of good information? So I've been in this community for a long time, and I do this little thing. Has anybody ever been on one of my bus tours? Was it helpful? Very. So it's 6 hours of Wayne and me. I actually counted up over the last 15 years. I've done 42 bus tours. So it's a full day of resources. And so April 25th is the next one. I think that one is literally full, and that's 2 buses, just so you know. 2 buses full. So what we do is we go 6 hours, and we tour different types of resources. So the one in April is long-term care insurance, geared toward long-term care insurance policies. The one in May is memory and chronic illness, okay? The one in June is low to modest income options for people. Did y'all hear the rumor that every villager is rich? All of you? Loaded. Who's the richest in the room? And single, just curious for a friend, asking for a friend. So it's education, but people have said for years, it's the best $30 you'll spend. It's really getting a taste of what different options there are out there in a group environment so it feels safe. All right, so thank you, Wayne. I got to tell you, I've been working with him. He's helped, countless. My favorite thing to describe, I've never ever one time in 15 years sent somebody to Wayne and they turned around and said that was a bad experience, okay? You have to have resources that give you information and allow you to make your decision. So our next speaker is Dr. Velez, one of the also great people that have come into my life of helping families. So who has a pretty good primary doctor? Okay. Who had a good solid 20 minutes with their primary doctor? Oh, that's good. So does anybody in the room know what a physiatrist is? Okay. A physiatrist kind of specializes, and I would, in layman's terms, they figure things out, okay? So if anybody have a loved one that has some behaviors or issues and you're like, well, what was that? Or anybody have multiple medications and trying to balance them with multiple diagnoses? Is anybody dealing with somebody that has more than one diagnosis at home? Is anybody dealing with somebody that's got 8 or more meds at home? Okay. Any pharmacists in the room? Didn't think so. Anybody not even know how to pronounce all of the medications you're passing out like a drug king in the morning? So a physiatrist kind of helps put the mind, the body, and the meds for healing together. So she just actually, I don't even know if she knows this, I sent a friend of mine to her, a girlfriend of mine, that's been dealing with no doctor being able to figure out what the issue is. What challenges a lot of doctors from being able to help you is they don't have the time. I like to make this analogy. Anybody ever had a major engine problem going on in your car? Did you take it to the tune-up store, like the oil change, 5-minute oil change, 10-minute oil change to get it fixed? Same thing with your loved one. You know, sometimes just counting on your primary doctor is just not the answer. I always tell people to do your gut check. If your doctor's busy and you love them, but they're busy and you don't feel like they're going that extra layer to dig to get to help with problem solving, then you need a specialist. So, Dr. Velez, thank you for taking your time out today.
Thank you so much, Amy. Can you guys hear me okay? Okay. So I am going to add a little bit more to what Amy was describing, just so you guys have a better idea of what is physiatry or physical medicine and rehab. So it's basically a specialty. It started in 1942. Can you hear me? Physiatry is PHYSIATRY. So it's also known as physical medicine and rehabilitation. So what we try to look at is multiple things. We look at your physical function, like how are you doing on a regular basis with your eating, grooming, getting up and down a chair. Are you able to do that regularly? What are the changes that occur with aging that are normal versus is there something extra that's causing these functional decline? So that's basically what we try to do whenever we evaluate a patient. A lot of times when we have, I like to call them medically complex patients, whenever we have some of the issues that A, we have aging, B, we had a disability that occurred, or you're not sure if there was a disability that occurred. It might have been a medication. So all of these things, we usually just try to tease them out one by one. So one of the things that Amy mentioned also in the tour bus is that sometimes there's different facilities that can treat or identify these issues. So inpatient rehab facilities, usually something that's a shorter length of stay with multiple people looking at that physical function, that cognitive function. Are you able to do things how you typically were able to do them? Is there a medication adverse effect? Putting it all together so that then you guys have a better plan of care moving forward. Do you guys we were mentioning about evaluating the patient head to toe. One of the things that I wanted to start is when normal changes with aging. One of the things that occurs specifically with the brain is that the brain, with time, there is atrophy of all of the cells that are composed in the brain. So there's not only atrophy in volume, but there's also the communication between the nerves within the brain are not communicating as effectively as they were, or they're communicating a little bit slower. The third change that typically occurs is that our metabolism is slower, meaning that our kidneys are not filtering things like they used to, or our liver isn't filtering things as we used to. So whenever we have that compounded, so you have a medication you've been on 10, 20 years, but we don't know if our liver and our kidney function has been declining, that by itself, even if you've had the same medications for 10, 15 years, that by itself can cause a change, because with normal aging, your physiology is already changing. Do you guys have any questions so far? Okay. Typical changes with aging that are not with the brain, that doing physical activity will actually reverse the changes. One of the things that occurs with changes with aging is that we lose muscle mass. So exercise is gonna help you maintain that muscle mass so that you are less at risk for falls or developing any additional injuries in the future that your family member or yourself might already have. So compounded disability. So we wanna be able to avoid that. Questions? No, we're good. Okay. Have you guys ever worked with an occupational therapist before? Okay. Occupational therapies, what do we typically look at when we're looking at occupational therapy? I know the easiest way that people distinguish it is from the waist up versus the waist down. Any other things that you guys, yes? Showers, getting into the toilet, and not only getting in and out of the toilet, but the hygiene part of it, which a lot of times if you're losing that ability, then you would have to get a resource like Amy, for instance, so that you can have additional care. Within a rehab facility, I wanted also to talk about like different admission criteria, because usually there is different levels of rehab. So you can have rehab within a facility after you've had a major accident, or you've had a stroke, a neurologic condition, if there is a fall and you've had a hip fracture, if there is a knee or joint replacement, arthritis that's usually affecting more than one joint. I'm just mentioning different diagnoses that you would be a candidate for doing inpatient rehab. The typical length of stay of an inpatient rehab, depending on how much comorbidities you have or how impaired you are and what are the goals to get you functional, that's gonna determine the length of stay. However, there's always an average. The average length of stay varies in an inpatient facility between 8 to 12 days. I usually average it out at 10, depending on what more disabilities you have, or if you need more equipment, or if there's more family training that needs to occur, then we could try to extend. We can always try to lengthen the length of stay a little bit more than what we anticipated. And the other thing that's always important for you guys to know is that if you or your family member does not feel ready or doesn't agree with the plan of care of the team, you always have the right to, what is the word that we use? Appeal, exactly. Usually the appeals can take 24 to 48 hours to make a determination. So that's usually the inpatient facility. The difference with that would be, or the next level of care would be a skilled nursing facility. Usually every skilled facility, and Amy has several resources of different facilities and what they do. The difference would be the length of stay is one of them. The second thing that's the difference is the supervision by a physician. In an inpatient rehab facility, you have a physician supervising you on a daily basis, versus in a skilled facility, you might have them 2 to 3 times a week. The length of stay in a skilled facility usually is between 30 to 90 days. It could be less than that, but that's the average length of stay. And then you would get one or 2 disciplines, but you don't necessarily have to have 2 disciplines. With inpatient rehab, you need to have not only an occupational therapy need or physical therapy, you need to have 2 out of 3. So it's either physical therapy, occupational therapy, or speech therapy. If you have 2 out of those 3 that you're having to work on to improve, that would qualify you for an inpatient rehab stay. Questions? Yes. Mhm.
Her husband had a stroke.
Yes.
He has aphasia,
Okay.
okay? And when he was in the hospital right after that, they would not put him in a facility. He is now getting OT, PT, and speech. Why can't she get him into a facility that would take care of some of these things?
He should have been able to, especially if it's a new stroke and had aphasia, that would be speech pathology and at least PT or OT.
That's okay, you stay right there. So we did not get into this, but here's what happens. When you have an Advantage plan, you have to have your plan that the insurance, whatever the insurance is, drives the bus. So one of 2 things happens. Either it's an Advantage plan, even if it's through an employer. The question was that there was someone that had a stroke and they had aphasia, and you would expect that, remember we talked about what insurance is and what it isn't. They felt that insurance, because he has insurance, that he should have been able to go to the rehab hospital. But this is what happens a lot of times is that, remember what I said about Mary and I when my insurance, my health care exceeded the limitations of the plan. And that happens a lot. Uh-huh.
And therefore, from after the hospital, she tried to get him, and she
Uh-huh.
is the federal supposed to be here?
Right. So I want to clarify. So I'm going to say this, and I'm going to give you back the microphone. Here's what's happening, and this happens a lot. So what I'm about to tell you, you're not going to like, but you'll love me still later. Got it. Here's the reality, because what you said was incorrect, and I normally don't say that, but I want to say it because this happens all the time. You heard the word she used. She said, federal employee, and then I said, what insurance does he have? And she said, Blue Cross. Unless you have a Blue Cross supplement, all the Blue Cross after you turn 65 is an Advantage plan. And with an Advantage plan, typically, and this has nothing to do with the facilities, this is the way the system works. If you have an Advantage plan, they control the faucet. And if that Advantage plan does not want to pay, and that's what it is an Advantage plan. Trust me, I will tell you this 100 times, every Blue Cross employee of the state of Florida, no, I understand, you're saying it's a federal plan, and it's called it's a federal Blue Cross. Right. Right, he has the higher option, but it is still an Advantage plan. I know what you're saying, but when you look at it, you'll see it's actually an Advantage plan. And the reason why I know it's an Advantage plan, because if it weren't, they wouldn't have to get permission to go, because it would be straight Medicare, because you all take Medicare. But because it's an Advantage plan, you have to call and get permission. And here's the problem. Nobody wants to pay because, and I don't want to put you on the spot, but how much does it cost to be there for 20 days?
I can tell you at least nighttime the difference. One day is $2,000 versus $150 at a skilled facility.
There you go.
So they're always going to try to.
Right. So it's about 20 or 30. Yeah, it's like $20,000 or $30,000. The insurance company doesn't want to pay it. I'm not saying he's not worth it or they're not worth it, but this is the system. So if you were on straight Medicare, you wouldn't have to ask permission. You would just go, do y'all have a bed and can you all take me? But because even though it's a federal plan, but because it's federal Blue Cross, it's still treated, it's an Advantage plan that's managed through the federal government. And that plan, it's a federal plan managed by Blue Cross. It's an Advantage plan, and it has limitations, and you have to get permission before you can go to a rehab hospital, because they don't want to pay for it, because for them it's too expensive. And that's really the issue. And this happens all the time, where I'll get phone calls and somebody will say, oh, I'm Blue Cross Georgia Federal. I work for the school system. An Advantage plan is an Advantage plan. There was a time when in this country, when you went to work and you retired on Friday, and Monday morning when you woke up, you were still on the same employer plan as all the line workers. But what has happened in this country now to save money, everybody has gone to the Advantage plan, and that's what's happening.
Thank you. Any other questions? Yes.
I just have a statement. When I was looking for insurance, I went to an insurance broker because I didn't know, even though I'm a medical person, I did not know all the difference between an Advantage plan and a supplement. And she just described it so easily to understand. She said with an Advantage plan, the government gives the insurance companies so much money per person. With a supplemental plan, so she said, so the insurance company has all this money, and your health care will be between you and your insurance company, versus a supplement like Blue Cross Blue Shield, plain Blue Cross Blue Shield supplement, where your medical decisions are made by your physician. So that clarified it for me very easily.
Maybe. Any other questions or comments? No. So we defined OT, we defined PT. PT is usually getting stronger, your legs, and there's actually a correlation or studies that show that the stronger your lean muscle mass, the less likelihood of you having a bigger disability in the future. So any type of weight-bearing activities, not only does it increase bone density, but it also increases lean muscle mass. So those are things that are always gonna assist you whenever you do have a disability, that your body's in better condition to be able to not be so impaired in the future. Speech therapists. Speech therapy, they usually work with your cognition, they work with the tone of your voice, because there are some conditions with Parkinson's, for instance, that you start losing the quality or the sound of your voice, so they can work with that, and with swallowing issues. So we mentioned for criteria 2 out of those 3 disciplines in order for an inpatient facility, versus in a skilled facility, you just need 1 of the 2. And the intensity of the therapies is another thing that's different. Usually within an inpatient setting, it's 3 hours of therapy 5 days a week, versus in a skilled facility, that varies. It could be an hour and a half for 4 to 5, it's usually 3 to 5 days a week. Every facility changes it, so it's a little bit different there. And then there's also the other option, of course, depending if someone that you have that's more in the home setting or more limited to a facility, that home health, that they also can provide therapies. That's usually once or twice a week per discipline. Any questions there? Did you want me to cover anything? Because I don't have too much more.
Cognitively impaired, the importance of the physical and social ongoing therapy.
Okay.
And a little bit, what can I just? Sure. Sometimes the reason why you need another doctor is because if you don't like the answer of your primary doctor, specialists are sometimes you can get a little bit more of what you want. Okay, because of the healthcare system and the financial relationship sometimes and ACOs. So if you're having trouble getting rehab for your loved one, your doctor says no. Who takes no for an answer when it comes to your loved one? Not me. Sometimes you need somebody else that understands what you need and you can get a yes. The one thing that I believe in to the utmost is the ongoing therapy of your loved one. People get the diagnosis and then you get a list of meds and then that's it. You know, ongoing therapy, ongoing healing, ongoing living, ongoing recovery. So I want kind of.
Sure. So the way that I would summarize that is, what are the benefits of exercising? Because exercise, basically what we're doing is, in a scientific term, it would be activity-based plasticity. You're training your brain, training the nerves inside of your brain. This is the activity that I want to do, and I need you to develop a way from point A to point B. I had a stroke and this nerve doesn't work. I need to enhance that communication. Even if it takes me a little bit longer, with that repetition, that's gonna increase. The other good thing with physical activity is you're pumping your cardiac output, or the amount of blood that you have, 3 times more. So everything is circulating. You're going to improve the circulation within your brain. So it also enhances the atrophy. It just kind of neutralizes a little bit the atrophy that goes on whenever you have not only aging but with a disability. Doing that physical activity is going to actually increase the volume of that of those cells in order for them to be able to do that activity that you lost. No referrals needed. Not necessarily, no. As long as you know where I am, and my evaluations, I usually take a whole hour. I look at your patient head to toe, check vitals, look at all of the medications, make sure that the medications are appropriate, or if they're not appropriate, I kind of have a discussion. If you have one condition and you have 3 or 4 medications for that condition, which medication did you start first? Which one did you start last? Did you notice any change once you started this medication or not? So we kind of go through all of that. And then evaluate what you're able to do physically. Do you have a neurologic impairment? Because sometimes, because we don't feel pain, you don't necessarily know that you have a neurologic impairment. You might have had even a smaller stroke that's affecting your cognition and you didn't even know it. So getting the workup that you need. To add a little bit more what Amy was saying too, I've noticed in this area it's very difficult to get to a primary or to a specialist. It takes 3-4 months even to put in a referral. I started my practice fairly recent, just in January, so I'm not super booked, and I like to know my patient. That first visit is extremely important, because then I can tailor what the plan of care would be. Or if you do get in trouble at some point, this was your baseline. What's changing from that? So I am located in Tavares, 2734 Dora Ave. I'll pass some cards because I have them in the back there if anyone would like to schedule an appointment, or if they have any additional questions. I do have also some pamphlets of PAM Health, what they do, and then I brought cards of the different levels of rehab so you guys have it as a reference, so that way you don't have to memorize anything.
And I will email you, because you put your information on a slip, all of Dr. Velez's information and how to get to her. But if you're, she just said she just started her practice, but she's been practicing for a long time. She started her own private practice. This is your 6th day on the job, Dr. Velez? Yeah, she's been dealing with multiple diagnoses, multiple patients. And I know so many times people come to me, because I don't know if y'all have heard this rumor, they call me the Alzheimer's whisperer. The hospital doctors will send me families that the families are struggling to try to, I'm not the expert, but I am surrounded by really smart doctors, and almost all the time when there are behavior challenges and sleep pattern problems and agitation or lack of eating, it's almost always goes back to medication management. Some people are afraid of medication management. Here's a common thing I'll hear: I don't want to give my husband this. I don't want him to be a zombie. Sometimes you gotta zombie him for a minute or two. A minute. Sometimes you gotta take him down and bring him back up. But under the guidance of expertise and people that do this for a living. So I love all of our speakers. I really love Dr. Velez. She's so down to earth and real. And you need to not call her when you're having the emergency. This is really important. You need to bring her now, your patient, to her now, so she sees a baseline. She sees what, quote, normal looks like. So let's say 6 months from now, we're having a different behavior, she needs a comparable. She needs blood work comparables. She needs medication, what's normal look like before you can tell somebody what not normal looks like, right? Like looking at me, y'all might think I'm normal, right? Wrong. He said no. That's good. So this is one of my favorite topics for today. My faith and spirituality keeps my cup full every day. I learned the greatest lessons of faith during my brother's diagnosis with Lou Gehrig's disease. And before I bring Ben up, and he lives and breathes, not just his faith, but his presentation as faith and family. But my brother, where I started this change of life, he didn't really have any faith or spiritual relationship with a higher being at all until Lou Gehrig's disease. Lou Gehrig's disease brought him a faithfulness and a leaning into God. And so to this day, 20 years later, I am nothing but thankful for Lou Gehrig's disease. If whatever divine intervention thought that that was what he needed to help him build his faith and his relationship, however tough the journey was, I get, forever one day. So, Ben, thank you for bringing your personal story up to us today, too.
Thank you so much, Amy. So I'm Ben Spangler. I'm the associate pastor here at Community. I'm going to put this microphone in here because I talk with my hands way too much. Today we've talked about that life can be hard, right? Life can be hard. It can be hard when the people we love can't do what they used to do. It can be hard when we can't do those things together. It can be hard when we're caregiving all the time, especially. At least I know that this is true in my own life. And so what I really want to lean into today is how can we give ourselves permission as caregivers to find some Sabbath, right? Sabbath is something that we are called to giving ourselves rest. This is a discipline, it's a mandate from God because we need it and God knows we need it, right? So we're going to talk a little bit about that and where is our motivation coming from when we're caregiving, right? This is a really personal journey for me. I've had 2 grandparents that had either Alzheimer's or dementia, and right now, about 4 years ago, my mom was diagnosed with early onset Alzheimer's. And so mom has quickly gone from being able to run the family air conditioning company to needing help with most things around the house, like doing dishes. And so the last few years have been a lot of change for our family. Has anybody else experienced a lot of change these past few years? Lots of change, right? A lot of change. And change is hard. Change is really hard. And so in my family, my parents have had to move in with me. Mom couldn't run the air conditioning company anymore, and Dad couldn't do all that on their own. And so they've had to move in with me so I could help meet some of their needs. And I don't know about y'all's families, but growing up, my parents were always the ones that, met my needs. And they did everything possible to meet those needs. I mean, Mom delivered packages door to door for UPS in the hot South Florida sun. Dad worked 3 jobs. And then once they started the air conditioning company, their phone was never off, right? Growing up, me and my siblings lacked for nothing. We had every opportunity to thrive. So when Mom got sick, when she not just received her diagnosis, but she couldn't work anymore, and it was clear that my parents were going to have to move into me, I thought, this is the opportunity for me to make the sacrifice for my parents that they had always made for me, right? They had made sacrifices for me all my life, and this was my opportunity to do the same for them. So I quit my job at my previous church. I moved down here so we could be closer to family. My parents had to sell the business. We started navigating disability and Social Security, and we all know what a challenge that can be. There were so many things to juggle. At times it was exhausting, at times frustrating. And I thought for me, this is just a season of sacrifice, right? Just as my parents had done for us for so many years. And at first glance, that sounds like a good thing, right? Making sacrifices for someone else. But I want to talk a little bit about what the Bible does say and doesn't say about sacrifice today, right? Because I think that this is something that I got wrong for a really long time. And leading up to Good Friday and Easter, I think it's important for us to lean into. A lot of my life, I thought that sacrifice itself was inherently a good thing, right? You ever think about sacrifice just inherently as a good thing, right? You know, I modeled my whole life around it. You know, I thought that was the whole point of the cross was sacrifice. But I think the primary point of the cross is mercy, not sacrifice, right? Think about Jesus' words in Matthew 9. I desire mercy, not sacrifice. Sacrifice is the means to the end. It is not the end in and of itself. And for me, this was a hard lesson to learn. For the first couple years of Mom being at home, I thought I can make the sacrifices for them that they always made for me. But I quickly burned out. I was exhausted, right? When I'm always making a sacrifice for someone else, there's never a good reason for me to not make that sacrifice. Y'all have felt that, haven't you? When they need you, there is never not a good reason for you to make that sacrifice for them. It's exhausting. But when I got to Matthew 9, which Jesus is quoting God the Father in quoting God the Father from Hosea. Christ says, I desire mercy, not sacrifice. And I don't know about you, but for me, that changed everything. Because the cross is not primarily about sacrifice. The cross is primarily about God's mercy, God's love for you. And sacrifice was just the means to the end. So I think we all need to sit for a second and ask ourselves, when we are caregiving, where are we caregiving from? What is our motivation behind our actions? Because for me, I was sitting in a place of sacrifice, and that cannot be sustained. As the years have gone on, though, and I've talked with Mom and Dad more, they've said, we didn't just sacrifice to sacrifice, right? We didn't give up all that time with our friends when you were growing up to work more jobs just because sacrifice was a good thing. No, we did that because we love you. We wanted more for you than we had for ourselves growing up, right? That's why my dad worked 3 jobs. That's why my mom delivered packages door to door with UPS. It was because they loved me, and they wanted me to receive the mercy of the childhood that they wish that they had. And working from a place of love, working from a place of hope, working from a place of mercy, that is sustaining. That is life-giving. That is filling. For between me and my siblings, 25 years, my parents poured everything out. But it was because they were also being poured into. Sacrifice itself is not enough. So where do you caregive from? That's what I really want you to sit with today. What is motivating your caregiving? Because for me, I still lose sight of it. I can still lose sight on those middle of the night when Mom is up and all of a sudden the dog is out in the yard and barking at all the neighbors because Mom thought that the dog needed to go out at 3 o'clock in the morning. And I'm like, I can't. I got to preach in a couple hours. If it was just about making the same sacrifice she did because she made sacrifices for others or because she made a sacrifice for me, I'm going to be bitter. I'm going to be angry. I'm going to go to bed and be restless. But if I can sit in that place of love and remember that for all those years, she was working in the hot sun, and for all those years, Dad was crawling through attics because they loved me, then I can get up with a posture of love instead. And those are two fundamentally different places. Because now, if I'm giving mom mercy, if I'm showing up with hope and love for mom, that gives me permission to have hope and love for myself too, right? If it was just about sacrifice, there's never a reason for me to not make the sacrifice. But if I'm showing up with hope, with love, with mercy, then I have to extend that same mercy to myself. Otherwise, I won't have it to give to her. For us and our family, the respite program here at the church has been one of those places of hope, one of those places of love, one of those places of mercy. Mom's not the deepest in her cognitive decline. And so she sees herself both as a participant and also as someone that's coming to help. Amy's really good at helping folks navigate that line. But it has been a space and a place where mom can go and receive joy, where mom can go and receive mercy from somebody else that's not me and dad. And that's important, right? It can't all come from us. God desires mercy, not sacrifice. God desires mercy for you too. And that's my hope for all of us today. If we get anything out of today, that you will extend mercy to yourself. The same mercy, the same love, the same hope you have for your loved one. That you might give that to yourself, because there are other people who will also love them. There are other people who will also show up for them. There are also people that will bring them joy. It doesn't always have to be you. Thanks, Amy.
It's kind of a cute story. His mom is a volunteer, because we have some of our people next door at the program. We take a little convincing to get there. I had one lady, when I had called to invite her and her husband, all I could hear her is kind of yelling and screaming in the background, "I don't need a babysitter. I'm not going back to one of those places." And I was on speaker. I said, "Excuse me, ma'am, you're not invited to the program. I was actually calling looking for volunteers, but thank you. That part of the program is full." She goes, "Well, oh, I was looking for a place to volunteer." I'm like, "Well, you'd have to go through the interview process." And we have a little application and actually feel like they're interviewing to come into the program. But there is no greater joy in my entire life and day, and I'm sure some of the people that work in this business will agree, when you watch these people come into this program, and there's some people in the room that will give testimony to this, you watch the lights come back on. Like, it is the most beautiful thing. I believe so strongly in the power of touch, smiles. I often do a lot of, for loved ones that are dealing with somebody in their home and they're having a hard time managing, they're cognitively impaired, teaching them the language of cognitive impairment. Something, I'll give you a quick story before Tanya comes up to present. I opened Sumter Senior Living about 15 years ago. And I had a lady come in through there. It's one of my favorite stories of all time. And she was actually the executive assistant for General McCarthy. Very esteemed, and you could just see her, and how she carried herself, that she held a very esteemed position. But when I first met her, there was pretty much nothing going on, complete inability to even form a sentence, hardly even a word. And so she hung out in my office most of the time. Her name was Joan. I won't say her last name and I let her hang out in my office because it was a comfortable space for her, being in an office environment for 50 years. And we would give her papers, and she would mostly just mess up any paperwork we gave her. So she thought she was putting files together, and she thought she was, my assistant, And couple weeks later, you kind of saw her lights kind of coming back on. And she would kind of perk up when people would come into my office. And you could tell she's receiving information. And I'll never, ever, I mean, literally, she was in my office for weeks, and I'll never, ever forget this, where I had a mother and the daughter in my office. They're crying like crazy because they're having to put their dad into memory care. And the wife and the daughter were just crying and saying, I don't know what to do. I just don't know how to get past this. I'm struggling. And Joan goes, Pinot Grigio. And it was one of the first, she's like, that helps. And it was very, and the ladies started laughing. It was this great, like, joyful moment. But that was like the first, and she kind of started coming back a little bit. And like a month later, she stopped wanting to work for me and wanted to hang out with this guy named Jack, who was Jack and Joan. And they became a couple in the building. They fell in love, full memory cognitive impairment at the age of 90. We actually did walk in on them christening the room once. That was interesting. But to me, the point of that is that quality of life, social engagement, making friends. I imagine some of you caregivers can count a few friends that you're not hanging out with as much because you don't fit into the friend group you were in. Who can connect with that? All of you will connect with the friends and the family in this group. We are all coming from a very similar place. We are all living a very similar life. We're all having one of the most powerful things my mom said as she was caring for my dad with Parkinson's is this loneliness she felt while grieving somebody that was still here. Grieving this life that she used to have with her best friend. And so grieving is tough. Grieving together with other people is a little less tough. So our program is about a very safe space for people to go. I want to bring up Tanya, because I know I'm going to end with this. Tanya, come on up. A lot of you guys are going to have to make a tough decision one day. Sarah, also stand up, please. When I help people transition to a facility, I'm not handing you over to facilities. I usually start people on this journey and this process by I'm handing you over to people that I trust their integrity of how they're going to educate you and take care of you. So if any of you are caring for somebody with memory loss, I'm just going to say it loud. I'm not politically correct. Is that a good thing or a bad thing for you? Me being not politically correct as an advocate, is that a good thing for you or a bad thing for you? It's a good thing for you. So I'm going to be not politically correct right now. I'm going to tell you 2 facilities that I really, really love, not because of the facility, because of the education and how you're going to be taken care of when you start this process. The first day you have to walk into a facility because you're actually starting to think about the process of putting your loved one into memory care is going to be a very, very tough, guilt-ridden day for you. And so 2 places that I want you to start this journey to just get a tour, they're not going to pressure you, is Sumter Senior Living because they have multiple levels of care, and Banyan because it is one of the most unique memory care products in the area. Okay? So make sure you leave with Sarah's card, and we've got our surprise guest coming in here shortly. So Tanya's going to kind of talk to you about that first step and making that memory care transition. Thank you.
Okay. Hi, everybody. My name is Tanya. I am one of the sales counselors at Sumter Senior Living. My partner is Tabitha, who's actually my sister. So we call it TNT. So this is about transitioning. Everybody is, at the stage where you're currently have somebody or know somebody who has dementia or has the beginning stages of dementia. So some of the things I like to talk about whenever I'm doing a tour, you're starting your research, you walk into a place and you're like, I don't know or have a clue where to start, right? Because we're all starting somewhere, but you got to start your search, your research, because you don't know when that time's going to be where you're actually going to need a place. We do have a program that's a respite program where you can come in, it's completely furnished if you're wanting to try it out for maybe 2 weeks to see how you like it. So some of the things that I find that are important whenever I tell people, whether you choose my place or another place, you want to make sure that you're asking the important questions. So when you come into my place, you walk in, my director's office is right there to your left. Her door is always open. She is one of the longest withstanding executive director here in the Villages. So I always say, how long has your executive director been in the building? How long has your management company been managing your company, right? Why are those important? Because it usually starts from the top down, right? If you have a great executive director, if you have a great management company, you are gonna know that your employees, you're retaining your employees, you are, have a management company that's not gonna leave you, you have an executive director that has the open door policy. So those things are really important to me. Another thing that's really important, so I had somebody walk up to me and they're like, listen, I put my loved one in somewhere and it was horrible. I didn't know what to expect, right? You never know what to expect because you're looking online, you're Googling them, you're trying to figure out, okay, is this a good place or is this not a good place, right? And we don't know where to Google or where to look. So one of the things that I like to tell people is that we actually, our place, our community, Sumter Senior Living, for the past 4 years have won the Zero Deficiency Score award. So you'll walk into our community and the first thing you're gonna see are these awards and you're like, well, what are these? Well, what that means is that our community meets and exceeds all state and safety regulations. Okay, so that's very important. You want to make sure that the place that you're putting your loved one in, you can go on CMS, which is the Center for Medicare and Medicaid, or you can go on ACA, which I have both of those sites. You can come see me later. You can go on ACA, which is the Florida Agency for Health and Care Administration, and you can find out where that community ranks, if they have zero deficiencies or what deficiencies have come in. Those are really important. You also want to know how long has your director of nursing been there? Why is that important? Because you want to make sure that the director of nursing is taking care of the residents, that they're not changing that in and out, that the place that you're looking at is not hiring agency nurses, because you're in memory care, right? So you want your loved one to have the continuity of having the same nurses, having the same caregivers, having the same med techs. We also have a director that sits in memory care. And then you want to know, what about activities? How are activities? Because nobody wants to go and just sit and watch TV all day. Do you think, everybody wants to do activities. So if they're not thriving and they're going backwards, and you see that they're not doing the activities and there's no activities present, then that's why I said do a respite stay, see how the activities are. Come in there unannounced. In our community, you can have cameras in their room as long as you post it, but you can't have cameras, you see what's going on. We encourage families to come in there. I actually live 2 miles away from my community. I'm a Wildwooder, not a villager. I live in Wildwood. I love my community so much. I've been there for 3 years. When a position came open, I said, this is exactly where I want to be. I want to be in a community that has the longevity of their staff. We're not having to look for nurses. We're not having to look for people to come in and work. Everybody there generally loves doing what they do. We live to serve our residents. So again, thank you guys all. I could talk forever, but thank you all for coming. I would love for you guys to come in and tour, and then I can really talk and share everything that our community offers. But thank you all for letting us come in today.
So I want you to say hi to the largest volunteer group in Fruitland Park. Say hi to them. I'll give you some. Nancy, you're going to be helping me lead in a moment, okay? Our song, okay? So, but I want you to hear from one of our families, Matt, who is an amazing caregiver for his beautiful wife, Connie. Where's Connie? Give Connie. How amazing is Matt? But I'll tell you, some of my husbands are kind of sometimes harder to help, especially my type A's. Okay, there's one. Type A's, you know what their favorite 2 last words are? I'm fine. Okay, I'm good. 70% of caregivers do not outlast the person they're taking care of. They I'm fine themselves down. But I wanted you to hear from a type A, Matt. He's going to kind of share just kind of what he went through before he started taking steps to make change.
Hi, how's everybody doing? You've got quite a group coming here today, and they're tough acts to follow. And I just want to say a couple words about being a caregiver and navigating your way through this maze, okay? And just a little past history. I'm going to do maybe 1 minute on past history, maybe a minute on challenges, and maybe just sum it up a little bit. My wife has Parkinson's for 20 years, and everything was going along pretty good until it didn't. And that was about after she had open heart surgery. It made some changes, and the changes were subtle first. It wound up being some meds were off, and things changed. And about 5 years ago, things really started changing, and it doesn't go up. It keeps going down. And as a caregiver, you're navigating a whole lot of things. And as you've probably heard, there's a 70% chance that you're not going to make it. You're going to be the one that is leaving your loved one behind. So you have to make some plans for that. And a lot of it comes down to some rest and relaxation. Nobody really sleeps the whole night. They're on edge. Did the person fall? So you need some sleep. You need a couple days away, and you have to trust the people that have expertise in it. You have to let them go. I mean, the first time my wife went to a caregiver group, I sat on the bench and said, is this what it come to? After 50 years, you drop your wife off and someone else takes care of them. But you really need that, because if you don't take care of yourself, no one's going to take care of your loved one, like you do. So you have to let go. You have to trust people. And you think, well, nobody can do it better than you. Well, they can, because you're there 24 hours a day, morning, noon, and night. And they have 8 hours, and they're professionals at it, okay? They have 8 hours of putting all their experience together, getting you the best of care. And also, you're not tired. They've had a good night's sleep. Okay, so the only thing I can say is let go to respite care places. You have a lot on your shoulders. I mean, you walk in and the sprinkler's broke, the car needs servicing. You're cooking breakfast, lunch, dinner, and it's a lot. And then you finally get your loved one in bed, then you start thinking, well, what did I miss? Did I got to order some meds? I got to put them all in order. But you got a lot of help in the villages, and use it. I've recently let her go. She spent 2 nights away, about once a month, every 6 weeks or so. We're trying to do that. And it's amazing the stress that you're under. When I first started this, I started getting a few palpitations in my heart. I went to see the cardiologist, and he asked me what my schedule was. I said, well, I exercise. I'm on the treadmill for elliptical for an hour. I'm in a full sweat. I'm okay. He said, you need help. I resisted him. And he said, you can't do it. No one's ever done it. In his 30-some years of being a cardiologist, it is impossible to do it. I thought, well, you know, I'm in good shape. I eat good, I exercise, and I can handle this. Not a job. About 3 years later, I'm in his office with high blood pressure over 200, saying, I need some meds, and I don't take an aspirin unless it's for a hangover or something. So I guess the point is, you have to let go. You have to trust the resources that are in the villages. It's hard to do because you think you can do it, and you really can't. So I'd encourage everybody to go out and use the experts here. You've had insurance people tell you the best path. You've had exercise is good. There's just so many different things. To use them, get away, take a little time to yourself, because there's about a 30% chance that one of you won't be here, and your loved one will go on. So that's the point of someone on the other side. It's a maze, but I thank you.
I love this conversation when I'm in front of a caregiving couple. I remember with Connie and Matt, when they first came in, I was like, hey, Matt, he did the same thing. Do you need a break? Are you tired? And Matt's like, I don't need a break. I'm like, I wasn't talking to you, Matt. I said, Connie, do you need a break from Matt sometimes?
Yes.
That's a powerful answer. I don't care who you are. Your loved one needs a break from you. They are sick and tired of you answering for them, telling them to take their meds, telling them to get a good, you're bossing them around. They get tired of it. They need a break from you. They need some fresh love and energy walking into their circle too, okay? So remember that, you guys. You've got to say, I need a break from you. Get out of here. But we got a little special prize for you. Then we're going to all have lunch. And then I have an ice cream truck pulled out for everyone to have an ice cream as you're leaving, okay? So we're going, Nancy, my lead. This is our Community Cafe Alzheimer's Choir. I had a hard time getting them to do speech therapy, so we tricked them. Come on up. Nancy has led many choirs in our community. Are you guys ready? If you want to sit, you can sit. You want to come up too and help us? All right. You're going to lead us too, okay? All right, you guys. Ready, guys? All together.
Jesus loves me, this I know, for the Bible will be so. Little ones who in me long, they are weak, yet we are strong.
I need to hear you.
Yes, Jesus loves me. Yes, Jesus loves me. Yes, Jesus loves me. The Bible tells me so.
This is her first day. She's very shy. So we're going to go ahead. If you have any questions, please make sure Joe, where's my Joe? Joe and Donna, could you please pick up the slips? If you'd like more information about our support group, that's the first Thursday of every month. Every single person here that has a loved one, you get to try Community Cafe one day for free. It's $40 a Thursday. That's 3.5 hours. That was Nancy's idea. We have an upcoming workshop in the next couple of months, but our support groups are built around this type of education. Any questions before we have lunch? So I encourage every single person here to make a friend with every single person that's here. You guys already know your homework assignment. Grace is one of our ambassadors. She has been a caregiver for her son, and now they take care of each other. And we have Norman, the biggest flirt in our group. He's from across the pond. If you'd like a kiss on the cheek, all you got to do is come over here and bend over. You'll get one. Either cheek he will do, okay? Have a seat, Norman. Oh. Wait. Okay. And then we have Connie here. She's also one of our ambassadors. We have Bonnie. She's one of our volunteers, voluntold. We have one of many, many Bobs. We have Sherry. I would always do Mary. Sherry, she's also one of our volunteers. We have Elaine here, one of our newest members. We have Brian. He's in charge of helping us come up with activities every day, and he also helps us bring in our raffle prizes. So one of his assignments during the week is he goes out shopping for raffle prizes. We have Mary. She is our seasonal snowbird volunteer. We have Ruth, my grandmother's name. Sorry, I'm up front. Also one of our Del Webbers that comes from Del Webb. So it's not just villages. And I'm going to let the rest of our volunteers just introduce. And I want our volunteers right here to say one sentence about what they get out of volunteering.
Hi, my name's Bob, so I'm one of the Bob-a-roo. There's about 5 Bobs here, so if you can't remember anybody's name, you just say Bob, and somebody will answer. My favorite thing is the end of the day when a caregiver comes in with a smile on her face, and you ask her how her morning was, and she says, I got my hair done, I dropped off the taxes, I got so much done, so it just makes you feel good.
Hi, I'm Doris. I'm sort of the group nurse, if you will, old-fashioned nurse. It's kind of nice to have them on hand, I think. I enjoy every day that I come, and I'm so glad when the clients will say, it's so good to see you again, Doris.
And I'm Donna, one of the volunteers, and I'd say my favorite thing is having fun and singing and dancing with everybody in the group and seeing the faces light up when, especially when the participants enjoy singing and dancing.
Hi, I'm Anita, and I love the people. I mean, always have smiles and entertainment and a lot of fun and fellowship.
Hi, my name's John, and I enjoy the love that I get back from everybody involved in this thing. One of my favorite exercises is laughter. We laugh. We first start out laughing quietly, and it builds up until your tears are going down your face. And but it gets you going.
Hi, I'm Mike. I'm chairman of the board for the respite program. One of the things that absolutely makes my day is when a caregiver comes in and says, with a big smile on her face, I did something I've never done before. I got new tires on the car. It made her day.
Everyone, what is Mike also known for amongst our group? The best dancer. Not. All right, well, thank you so much. Let's have lunch, and it's been a pleasure. Thank you, guys.